Are peptides the unsung heroes of the biohacking world? Because do they belong in the biohacking space, or is this the future of personalized medicine?
7,000 different peptides that have been identified. And what are they? These are things that the human body makes. These are bioregulator. These are signaling molecules that have a lot of BPC, body protective compounds, healing effect, and it has other things too, neuroregeneration, muscle generation.
A lot of people know about GLP-1s now, so Ozempic, Wegovy, all these. These are very, very powerful for anti-aging because of what they do for insulin signaling.
Thyroid disruption, and dysregulation, all these different things. When in truth, if someone was using, as he said, a microdose of these drugs, they are incredibly therapeutic.
Peptides usually recommend to take on an empty stomach, whether it's a sublingual. Why would I do that in functional medicine? I make that for the doctors treating leaky gut syndrome. Your gut's a wreck. You're just not going to absorb nutrients well, and you have a whole lot of things that are going to go wrong with you from an inflammatory standpoint.
My name, if you don't know, is Mike Kosis. I'm the founder of Balance My Hormones, one of the title sponsors for this Mr. University event. I'm the owner and founder of Balance My Hormones, online TRT and HRT hormone clinic in the United Kingdom, and also the pharmacy called the Hormonist. So something that we always looking at the latest and greatest options for men's health and hormones. And this video is being also put on our YouTube channel called Balance My Hormones. We also help, so I would always say we help men and women on their journey to optimal hormone balance. So that's what we do. And then anyway, I'll hand it over to Ambassador.
Yeah, well, pretty soon it's just going to be and guess I'll never, I'll just with yours, I'll talk. Since it's a peptide, I'll talk about where my hat is with peptides. I actually teach a lot of peptide courses. I teach other physicians. Peptides are just in New York at a Longevity Docs conference with 30 nations, most of who know nothing about peptides. So it's fun to actually introduce physicians, hopefully the well-minded physicians, about something new that they can utilize, and think so my expertise in this area goes way back. Been doing peptides longer than just got anybody ever. So, yeah.
Beautiful. That's why I love her. Hi guys, I'm Jay Gamble, and I've written books on peptides, of course, therapeutic hormones and whatnot. And I love what she just said. In fact, she's actually by training orthopedic surgery, and she's one of the only people probably in the world that will recommend sometimes peptides in lieu of a very expensive replacement or reconstructive surgery. And she's right in doing that, because depending on the age and the state of the person's biological health, cells and health, peptides are actually a better adjuvant sometimes than an actual very expensive replacement or reconstructive surgery. So there's a lot of really smart people on this panel. So hopefully today you guys are going to get some more information about peptides that you can take home and use.
My name is Hunter Williams. I'm an author, educator in the peptide health optimization space. So just thankful to be here today, and looking forward to giving some value to you guys.
My name is Dave Lee. I'm a health coach from Australia. I own a clinic in Australia as well as in the Baltics. And I've also written a few books on health and hormone optimization as well. I do have a personal experience with BPC 157 for healing a brain injury, which every doctor told me could never be recovered from. And that was what got me into this space. So I'm very passionate about sharing knowledge and experience with these peptides, especially for conditions which can be healed, it should be healed, but we're told often can't be. And maybe I'll share a bit more on that later.
Yeah, same here. Eric Fates, doing health and performance optimization, muscle medicine, and both in hormone optimization, medical application of hormone therapy for years and years, and also with peptide therapy. I met Betsy actually back in the day when this kind of first got off the ground, and utilizing peptides for many, many years as well. So it's cool to blend all these things together. And thanks for having me out. And hopefully everyone listening can get some value. I'm the last one. I promise we'll get to the content. But Robert Seek, I'm a compounding pharmacist. I live here in Las Vegas. I'm licensed in 50 states. Do a lot of work with hormone optimization clinics, different orthopedic centers that are healing injury using peptides. I'm a member at A4M, where I completed my fellowship in metabolic and nutritional medicine. I'm also, just for fun, a martial arts instructor, a kettlebell instructor. So if I have something valuable to add on a peptide world, I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Peptides. Are peptides the unsung heroes of the biohacking world? Because do they belong in the biohacking space, or is this the future of personalized medicine? how do they compete? What are they in relation to medical devices, or are they part of the whole realm of the future of biotherapeutics? Where do they fit in the whole structure of the legality? So we're going to discuss and kind of unpick the science behind these peptides. We've all heard a lot about peptides and what they are and what they might or might not be able to do for you. So why don't we kick it off with, peptides in general. I think some of us have either used it in practice or personally. I have. There are peptides that are actually licensed, FDA products, MHRA products that have been licensed in other countries. Licensing meaning they've gone through the proper clinical trials to be shown to be safe and effective. Some of the peptides, like PT141, which is now in the form of Vyleesi, for women and sexual dysfunction. There's other medications like Testosterone, which is supposed to be a growth hormone, boosting hormone. Just a few examples. Others, unfortunately, like our favorite BPC 157 has a quite reset status. So we're going to discuss what are the future for peptides, not just in this country, the USA, but around the world. So why don't we kick it off, and what do you guys have any thoughts on kind of where peptides fall and kind of the future for peptides?
I'll give an intro, and because I gave a lecture last year at the Nevada Osteopathic Medical Association. I was surprised there was no knowledge among the physicians whatsoever of peptides. So I was asked to give a lecture and we'll overview these things. Okay, what are peptides? And even from the standpoint of their typical medical school education, the lack of awareness of the fact that there are 7,000 different peptides that have been identified. And what are they? These are things that the human body makes. These are bioregulator. These are signaling molecules that have a lot of pleiotropic effects, many effects, like BPC, body protective compounds, healing effect, and it has other things too, neuroregeneration, muscle generation. And right now, yes, there are some FDA-approved peptides. There will be more. There are 400 clinical studies underway in people. So in humans, you'll find some peptides have great data, but it's only rats and mice. But we still use it. That's BPC 157. Most of the data is in rat, but I've used it. Talked about this right before the FDA decided, well, we're going to start to limit the availability of peptides that are available through compounding pharmacies. So we have 3 different categories that we can choose from, the bulk substances approved list, and a number of peptides, including BPC 157, got moved from the list, said, okay, you can compound these injectable sublingual forms to, there's not enough evidence, so you're taking a lot of risk. So that category is not only for the compounding pharmacist, but the physician, but they have tremendous value because being in the world of hormone replacement therapy and working with a number of clinics, I can tell you that there's always the what's next phenomenon. TRT gets a lot of benefit. And Mike mentioned PT141 because a lot of men, women too, will say, oh, my testosterone level's up, but my libido isn't quite there. Why is that? The PT141, because the receptor cascade that it works on has a profound impact on libido, sexual satisfaction, things like that. And what I've seen from a regenerative standpoint is it's absolutely correct. The way that you can avoid surgeries, particularly for soft tissue injury, by using certain peptides like BPC 157 and then stack them. You can stack them with peptides that have different profiles for how they enhance your growth hormone release. There's a pair that increases the pulse of growth hormone. So a lot of people will take it before a workout, before bed. Samorelin more will increase the trough. So growth hormone, it's pulsatile release and then the trough. So Samorelin will increase your overall area under the curve. And they're sometimes used in combination. So from the standpoint of what I like in medicine is to avoid the use of prescription fake drugs because, it's called quackery and voodoo when you talk to your typical university trained physician and say, well, I'm not going to use this artificially man-made molecule as a therapeutic agent. I'm going to use this thing that's naturally produced in the body and I'm going to optimize these numerous different functions and see if I get a healing benefit without the use of toxic drugs. So I worked in the drug industry for 10 years, so I call myself a pharmacist in recovery. And I don't prescribe, so that's up to the doctors. I make typical recommendations, and I'll close with this. Typical peptide recommendations that I make for the ones that we are currently able to dispense, which I hope is a larger list, but there's other ways that you can acquire quality peptides. I typically recommend you refrigerate the peptides unless you're buying the lyophilized cake. You don't have to refrigerate that. Once you reconstitute it, if it's subcutaneous injectable, got to refrigerate it. We do make some sublinguals at our pharmacy, so those I always recommend to be refrigerated because they can degrade over time. There's a phenomenon that occurs that the doctor can speak to a little bit. Tachyphylaxis is basically means you can stop responding to the therapy. The receptors become a little bit desensitized. So we typically recommend like a an on-off or rotational protocol. 5 days on, 2 days off is one method. And then maybe treat for a maximum 12 weeks. Take 4 to 8 weeks off and then restart. And so those are common things that we go with. Peptides usually recommend to take on an empty stomach, whether it's a sublingual. There's some that are dosed orally. So BPC 157, the FDA hasn't pounded on us yet to stop making that orally, but why would I do that in functional medicine? I make that for the doctors treating leaky gut syndrome. Your gut's a wreck. You're just not going to absorb nutrients well, and you have a whole lot of things that are going to go wrong with you from an inflammatory standpoint. And the last point is peptides alone are fantastic molecules, but the symphony of human biochemistry requires lots of micronutrients. So if it's a person or a patient that doesn't have a good intake of a broad spectrum of amino acids, vitamins, and minerals, peptides just aren't going to work as well. So just from my perspective as a pharmacist, my typical consultation points are these on peptides. So I hope that opened up. What are they and what can we use them for?
That's great. Lots of us, I want to just kind of find out what are some of the myths. I want to talk quickly about what you guys would consider the best peptide available for general health and well-being. Is there one peptide that might do it all? Is there a combination of peptides that you think might actually improve?
I'll speak to my friend and then I'll pass on because it was in my lecture. And how many good fluid get air? Okay, you're flying at altitude, a lot of electromagnetic field exposure. You got the Wi-Fi on the plane. It just scarred your DNA. Okay, so we are constantly bombarded in 21st century America with things that just burn out the DNA. And when the DNA gets scarred or injured, proteins that the DNA is supposed to produce are not produced properly. So you end up with misfolded proteins. They're just not quite right. Those accumulate in cells, and we call those senescent or toxic cells that are sleepy. And there's some ways you can say that, well, these might be pre-cancerous cells. So what's one of the prime ways that we can prevent that? Of course, there are peptides for senolytic therapy, so we could get rid of these senescent sleepy cells. But the GHKCU, so that's a 3 amino acid combination coupled to copper. It's extremely protective of DNA. And if you look at the slides, plural, of what it's used for, and again, there's limitations on what I can do as a compounder. The injectable GHKCU is right now not part of what we can do according to the FDA, although I wish Rick was here to talk about the overturn of the Chevron. The GHKCU, we make it currently now as a product for hair restoration. Because when you can restore the DNA in damaged hair follicles, you could have a profound effect. So it's additive in regard to some other things. If I want to improve healing and clean DNA, well, you have your senescent cell focus where you would combine the GHKCU potentially with senolytic therapy like FOXL4-DRI. There's others. You could combine the GHKCU with BPC 157 because if you're going to stimulate cells to proliferate and heal soft tissue, let's make sure that these cells are healthy and have good protected DNA. So we all need it. We're all pretty much copper deficient. And that peptide, you see that I supply some aesthetic centers, right? They use a copper gel after really severe laser skin therapy sessions. The skin is super injured. And that copper gel will reduce the inflammation, speed the healing, increase collagen production. I have 2 slides on the effect of GHKCU. So that's one of my favorites, either as a standalone for longevity benefits or in combination with other therapies. It's the most frequently combined peptide with stacks. BPC 157 as well, to add depending on what the goals are of the clinician that's doing the treatment. So that's just one of my personal favorites.
A lot of people know about GLP-1s now. So Ozempic, Wegovy, all these. These are very, very powerful for anti-aging because of what they do for insulin signaling. So I'm sure a lot of the doctors up here can talk more in depth about it than me, but just from the coaching that Jay and I have done together, these are really powerful. So I'm sure we can talk a little bit about that because that's on the forefront now. But I'll say what we see at a microdose for healthy people in terms of anti-aging, even building muscle is pretty powerful. So I'm excited about the next 10 years.
Nice segue to talk about GLP-1 peptides. I think most of you guys in the audience have probably heard nothing but negative propaganda about GLP-1s, right? And the reason that you've heard negative propaganda is because the average user and the average doctor prescribing them is not giving the end user the correct instructions on how to use GLP-1 peptides, right? So everybody's heard about Wegovy face, Wegovy ass, Wegovy neck, all these different things, muscle loss, thyroid disruption, dysregulation, all these different things. When in truth, if someone was using, as he said, a microdose of these drugs, they are incredibly therapeutic. In fact, there are now hundreds of studies on the usage of Mounjaro, which is tirzepatide, and even some in semaglutide, but mostly with dual agonists, which is Mounjaro or tirzepatide, curing addictive compulsive disorders in the brain, right? Curing alcoholism, curing various addictions and addictive behavior. So as he said, they are profound in their ability at a clinical efficacy standpoint in doing a lot of important positive shifts in biology. But again, there's just so much negative propaganda. And then obviously there's lots of people, I won't name names even though I should, who jump on the bandwagon of GOP's bad, GOP's harmful, when in fact it's really the opposite. But we have to understand how they are used correctly. And you guys also have to understand, as you said, the pharmaceutical industry wants to make money. And in the pharmaceutical industry, more is better, right? So they usually start people out, and again, not our world, but just the average person, who's coming for weight loss. They start them at a very high dose, and then instantly from week to week is titrate higher, titrate higher, titrate higher. And, there is obviously receptor attenuation. People become desensitized to these things. So that's when you're starting to look at all the horrific side effects and the negative attributes that you hear in the media. But again, when these are used smartly, intelligently, prescribed by a doctor who understands how to use them, they are profound healing agents.
I totally agree. I think if you look at one peptide that's going to take over the longevity world, the GLP-1s are going to be there. They're in phase 4 trials for dementia, for cognitive decline. I use them in anybody who has any kind of immune-mediated disorders. Dr. Fig and I were just talking about occasions he was recently diagnosed type 1 diabetic. If you catch those early, you can reverse it using GLP-1A. And see, it's that dramatic. And what is when first developed, they were actually developed to prevent sarcopenia in diabetics. And then we talk about was muscle loss, Chris. People stop eating. If you stop eating, you lose muscle. You can keep eating protein while you're on the GLP-1 agonist, and that's what appropriate dosing allows to do. We use them a lot. And for every purpose of these, including orthopedics. So there's some very interesting data on cartilage regeneration using the GLP-1 agonists as a thought. So I think these are going to kind of top the list. They're largely going to replace a lot of the things we are doing in the longevity world. I think it's going to be additive. That's right. I think it's going to be a host of things for longevity. When I'm looking at peptides, from my perspective, I would say GLP-1's kind of top the list, but I always look at what are we losing as we image. So I sort of stack my longevity medications with using how much secretagogues, cycling those, and then cycling the thymic peptides. Because again, thymus gland disappears after puberty, gone. So I'm going to get back thymic peptides, so I'll cycle those. Then the other thing I have, the CVHs, it was mitochondrial function. Even if you're exercising hard, like all of you guys are, you will lose mitochondrial function as you age. You will probably not be able to run the same pace you could at EU that you could at 30. And that's loss of mitochondrial function. So how can we replace mitochondrial function? Again, choose mitochondrial peptides. These are also NASH breakers. By your mitochondria divide, they decline as we age. So I could give back things like MOD-SC, SS31, the newest by Shumanin, which is, I think, it'll probably get the top of the list. We're using it in some RALS patients with some really profound fat applying needs, our long coders. So the mitochondrial peptides become really important here too. And then upcycle BPC. Remember, our gut makes BPC, it declines as we age as well. I go by the theory, replace everything we're losing as we age, including your hormones and your peptides, and then can we maintain your basic health?
There's one thing to add to what you were just saying. The other thing that we're seeing in this is not a lot of people know this yet. You have to be using these in microdoses for like a year or a year and a half to 2 years, because that's pretty much where we've been at now, is the improvement in biomarkers.
Yeah.
The improvement in biomarkers are incredible. Like small particles, ABO, like everything that I've seen in my own biomarkers is improved since I started microdosing both of these agents, and I've been using tirzepatide and even the not FDA approved retatrutide, which is it's not
replace the other.
Yeah. So for you guys to understand, what we're saying is that when you use these, you actually improve your health.
If you found this video helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more content on hormones and men and women's health. And until next time, take control of your body and your health.